This show is part of the Transpodcaster Visibility Initiative.
Sasha, I'm bored. What do you have for me today?
Well, today I bring you tales of my misadventures in Carlisle, and shit gets strange. So, anyways, this past
Anyway,
weekend, because obviously up in Carlisle you have
do
Dickinson
tell.
College. Yeah, you have Dickinson College up that way, and so I've been spending weekends helping my boyfriend Al get the apartment cleaned up. We went to this like pizza place like a couple weekends prior, and he had said, well, maybe we should go back there. I wasn't too keen on it. And so he's like, well, we'll go over to the North Hanover Grill, which to me is kind of like cool. They have shivas and shaved ice. When? And initially we had thought about going to the G-Man, but since it was graduation weekend, like all of the cool places are packed. So yeah, we'll roll up on North Hanover Grill. And it seemed pretty chill. We order crab cakes, and in walks this trio of golfers. There was a young, tall guy with reddish hair, very loud, very obnoxious. There was kind of like this middle-aged yes man. And then there was this older guy who was just fucking weird. So they all proceed to.
Define weird.
I'm gonna get there. That's part of the story.
Well, that's the thing. It's like weird for you and I is different than everybody else.
Right. Well, this is part of the story. This is where the weird comes in. So they all order hot wings. The older gentleman immediately requests a pair of food service nitrile rubber gloves. You know, the little blue jobs you pull when you work in the kitchen. Which just seems odd, you know. And of course, he gets into this prolonged statement of, well, I need them to eat my hot wings. And I'm just like, so it's already weird. All right.
Yeah, you wouldn't need that level of protection unless you're going to a place that deals in like ultra like 50, whatever the highest level hot sauce there is. Yeah, an atypical bar is not going to have that level of hot sauce ever.
I don't think they have anything on the Scoville scale at all.
B-dubs, but anyways, maybe B-dubs.
Yeah, maybe, but still, it's just odd. I'm watching, and the dude looks like a very aged Hannibal Lecter dissecting his meal. Now, most people, they just put the wing in their mouth, and no, he's pulling the meat off the bones with his rubber gloves. I mean, it looks like he's performing an autopsy on chicken wings.
That'd be the case. Just order boneless. Jesus Christ.
And I'm just sitting here like, they have boneless on the menu to make matters worse. And the big tall guy just starts making the most obscene, obnoxious jokes that you can imagine. And I'm just sitting there like, well, here's this one guy that's kind of like bridging the gap in the ages. And they're clearly friends. But I'm trying to understand why the other two hang out with the loud, tall, 20-something obnoxious redheaded gentleman. And the whole time where he's dropping rude, obscene, racist, sexist jokes, he keeps staring at me, you know, the one and only trans girl in the entire fucking bar. And I'm just like, I'm waiting. You know what I mean? I'm anticipating. It's like, motherfucker, please say something. Because I know it's rattling around in your head. Please, please. The whole night he does it. He just proceeds to stare at me. And I'm just like, so the whole time that this is going on, I get this unusual text. Again, like I said, weird experience. And somebody I've never met, but knows me from OnlyFans, messages me, hey, are you at North Hanover Grill? And I'm looking at my phone like, what? And like, it's clearly not big tall dude, because unless he can stealth text, you know, I'm like, who the hell is this? And I'm just dying of laughter because Al is just cracking up beside me watching the dude devour hot wings. And this cop idles over beside of us, off duty, mind you, not in uniform. Like you can tell the waitress and the cook staff and everybody else is just tired of it. And the cop must pick up on the vibe I'm dropping. Like I am waiting for this guy to say something rude and obscene because I'm about to go off. And the cop literally looks at me. Whatever happens, I have your back. And I'm just like, you know what I mean?
Shock and terror with Sasha, the Princess of Darkness, and Chris, the Martinsburg Madman, in Sasha After Dark, the podcast of darkness reboot.
Anyway,
Welcome to, of course, Sasha After Dark, the podcast of darkness. I am Sasha Constantine Monroe, aka Sasha, the Princess of Darkness. Yes, I'm freshly showered and look like a drowned rat. And with me, of course, is the Martinsburg Madman, Christopher Lumser, also known as Reverend Godfather of the Long Coat Mafia podcast, who actually has a sponsor now, so he's legitimate. He is a cog
really
in a
sponsor.
corporate machine. He
what
has
they don't know
officially
can't hurt.
sold out.
I haven't received a dime yet. And in the audio side, you will still hear that dramatic pause. But those who listen, who know, will know. But
those who know, no.
Right. Because the crowdfunder is on my end, the GoFundMe is dying a slow and painful death. And folks, when I've posted up in, it's Martinsburg, go figure. Oh, you're just asking for a handout. You have to work for it. Meanwhile, that's why if you saw, some of you might have saw on my show's channel, I posted up someone who was talking about, granted she has close to 300,000 subscribers on YouTube, talking about how on YouTube, in order for them to remotely push any video you put up, that video has to be monetized.
Yep.
And in order to be monetized, you have to have like 1,000 subscribers and like a couple hundred, if not a couple of thousand hours worth of viewership in a year.
That's why I do stuff on OnlyFans. Right.
For someone like you and me, that's pointless. We either have to crowdfund or
Patreon, sell our bodies,
whatever. And even regular YouTubers use Patreon too. Everybody uses Patreon. Oh, by the way, that's asking for a handout. I'm like, and how she was talking, the YouTuber was talking. It's like, yeah, now YouTube is saying that is like going to folks like her. What?
Was she directly addressing you?
No, she was like going on telling her, the viewers, like how YouTube is telling folks like her that are getting monetized, hey, if you really want more subscribers, because if you might be stagnant, you have to
That's
pay.
How you get more subscribers.
In essence, you have to pay them, in essence, suck their dick in regards to. Yeah, you have to, pay them promotional money to get more subscribers, like what Facebook does. Hey, you're not getting enough people liking your page and follower interaction. Why don't you promote it for $10? Oh, it only went to 10 people. How about giving us another $10? We might give you
another 10.
And another 10.
And another 10.
I'm like, this is a great example of why folks like me have to use crowdfunder and why Patreon is a thing.
And why I use OnlyFans.
Right. And a buddy of mine's like, listen, this energy drink company, for those out there, think like G Fuel. That's the closest company I could think of in regards to this and what
they do. Did you see they got Jason Mewes now helping them?
Yeah, I've seen that. And even the way, I think even Jason Mewes has like a YouTube channel. He probably would be able to partner up with them. But unlike what G Fuel does, you have to have like so many subscribers. You have to have so many viewers. You have to, X, Y, and Z in order for them to partner up with you and earn commission. The company that I partnered up with is called Dubby, Dubby. I almost keep saying Dobby, like Dobby.
Oh God, let's not
But
talk Harry Potter.
I'm not. But Dubby is a company that's starting up that does something similar to G Fuel, and they're looking for folks like the little guys, like you and me. And I'm like, okay, let me put my stuff in, see what they're going to say. No, and they said yes. And because of at least me having a YouTube channel, and I guess I have to do a little bit more on Twitch every now and again, even though it's not camera oriented. I guess I could just hop on Twitch more a little bit, and doing the video with you and the audio stuff. And I give out the coupon, in essence, the coupon code for 10% off. So if any viewers wants to support, in essence, us, because what helps me also helps Sasha as well in a way. Because any extra funds I get to help offset costs for new equipment and all that. And if Sasha says, hey, we're going to this event, you want to tag along, that extra funds that I get in with either the GoFundMe or the coupon code and the commissions, I could offer Sasha, say, hey, here's some gas money. Here's, a portion to, if there's a hotel cost or anything like that, I could at least help better pay offset costs on the show front. And the coupon code that you can use when you go to Dubby.gg, DUBBY.gg, and you fill up your cart, you could buy something cheap, use the code LCMP, use the code LCM podcast. That's LCMPODCAST to get 10% off your order, and we get credit for anything that you buy. So, and they have a wide variety of flavors. From what I saw on their website, a lot of their stuff, like G Fuel, is sugar-free. So if you are a type 2 diabetic or a regular diabetic, type 1, like me, I'm a type 2. So sugar-free stuff is beneficial. So it might be the product for you, and it's roughly the same cost as G Fuel. So give them a shot.
But can I add liquor to it?
I'm sure you can.
What about King of Flavor, MSG?
I believe so. Part of me wants to, if I had the funds, donate to our GoFundMe. Link should be in the description. I will buy a bottle of clear rum, some G Fuel,
and some MSG,
and try it as a drinking challenge on this show.
You mean Dubby, not G Fuel, right?
Yes, Dubby.
I'm new at this. You'll have to go in with the audio and edit that later. Just all of a sudden, Dubby.
I mean Dubby.
That'd be a hell of a way to advertise their brand. We're trying G Fuel with subpar alcohol and MSG.
We're not using Dubby. We're using G Fuel.
We wouldn't sully Dubby with such things. We don't keep Dubby in the closet. We give him a sock. And the circle is now complete.
The more folks, I will buy a Dobby mask. I know it'll piss off Sasha because of what it represents.
We'll just call it Dubby for now on.
I will wear it. And if Dubby sells stickers, I will buy their sticker and put it on the center of the head like a star Gould creature.
We'll just carve it in like Charlie Manson. It'll be great.
The W, like, No, we can't allow that, but it's funny as fuck.
G Fuel. Fuck G Fuel.
Fuck
Instead of
G-
Helter Skelter.
Helter Skelter. Fuck G
Fuck
Fuel.
G Fuel.
G Fuel wouldn't sponsor us, but Dubby does.
Listen to Dubby. Obey. Kill
We
Sharon
will
Tate.
I'll pull out dark sunglasses, put them on, and goes, why does it say consume?
Consume.
Consume. Dubby. Consume. I have a TikTok video. Friday, I can't wait. I will pull out those free sunglasses I got from like Baltimore or something that they look like the sunglasses from They Live. I'll just go like, Dobie. Consume. Dobie. Consume Dobie.
I mean, I just put them on. I see advertisements out there, and they all just say swallow. And I'm like, I hear that enough as is.
Another rabbit hole. But again, folks at Dubby, we thank you for at least giving us a shot. I hope things work out. This could be a mistake on my part, but I have to give it a shot. It's a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
But in some cases, I will pick up their $15 tumble, because one of the things that they recommend is that if, at least to show that you are a sponsor and all that, and because I'm drinking stuff anyway, I'll get the dark one. I'll slap one of our stickers on the other side, and still, I'm not saying I won't be drinking G Fuel in their cup, but
if I get a coupon code, I'm drinking G Fuel.
It's like, G Fuel, you better offer me better promotional stuff than what they're offering me, or else I'm sticking with your competitor right now.
I wouldn't say that. Dubby sounds like somebody who's just trying to get that little small part, which is okay. That's the person to be. Don't want the whole pie. You just want that. You want that. You want that Moxie dollar. You're not exactly Pepsi or Coke, but you're Moxie. Of course, the Moxie's
I want the
now owned
RC
by...
dollar. I want the RCW. Well, wait a minute. You're Pennsylvania. 8th Street dollar.
A what?
Oh, it's probably more northeastern Pennsylvania. 8th Street, if they're still around. Off-brand soda.
You know what I miss?
But what?
I miss It from Sheets.
Never heard about that.
Oh, it was like a super cheap cola back around the time that T2 came out, and Sheets was really pushing it. And it came in 2-liter bottles, 6-packs. And it was just called It.
Oh, we're talking about Terminator 2, right?
No. Well, like the same year that Terminator 2 came out.
Oh, okay. That's what I was talking about.
Sheets was pushing for this drink called It, and it was really good.
And the times that when Terminator 2 came out, I was moving from Pennsylvania to Florida. There was no Sheets.
There you go. That's why you missed it.
So, not to mention, when I moved down to Florida, they have Circle K. I remember seeing,
something strange to put at the Circle K.
I'm like, at that time, I might have seen the first Bill and Ted, and I thought this whole aspect of Circle K was just a made-up store. No, here it is. Like Walmart. I thought that was just a mythical store that made up for,
Kmart.
Not just Kmart. No, I'm talking Vacation. The Vacation, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. I'm like, and it was just like Wally World.
Wally World.
I'm like, yeah, it's just a mythical store. Movies do that all the time. So they don't have to pay extra funds. They just make their own stuff up. And here's Walmart. Here's Circle K. I'm like, mind blown. What else am I don't know? Is there a Santa Claus?
Well, speaking of mythical things in movies, one of the things I do want to talk about today.
Besides my life. What was that?
I said, speaking of mythical things in movies, what we want to talk about today, for a little bit at least, is classical movie monsters. And what I mean by classic is basically just to be safe, let's say pre-60s. Anything pre-60s.
So you're talking about at least the big three: vampire, vampire/Dracula, werewolf, and Frankenstein.
Right. And preferably if the film's black and white, but there are some color jobs that kind of sneak in there. And so, like, some of my favorites off the top of my head, of course, I'm gearing up for Blob Fest, would of course be The Blob, because there's always a certain charm about watching 30-year-old teenagers try to outsmart a monster that's destroying their hometown. And while they're secretly smoking between takes, but you can see the smoke rising up from behind their shoulders. It's the greatest thing.
Oh, you mean besides the movie that's in my voodoo collection, Reform? I don't believe I have to say it's not a porno. It approaches the softcore porn line and just stops. The movie's called Reform School Girls.
Is it from the 40s and 60s?
No, it's from the 80s.
Oh.
It's one of those films that I think out of everybody playing it, maybe it's supposed to be everybody all the women that are in it are supposed to look like they're like 16, 17 years old.
Mm-hmm, but they're not.
But no, half the cast, like 3 of the main cast that they focus on, are, again, supposed to be looking like they're 16, 17 years old. They look like they're 43.
Well,
legitly.
In The Blob, you got Steve McQueen. Steve McQueen, okay?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
He's well over at least 28 when that movie came out, so he's close to 30. His female co-star, though, is at least 18. And I'm just sitting there like should I call the child line? Do we need to put him on some sort of predator list? I mean, what's going on?
But you got to figure, Keanu Reeves was in his mid-20s when he was playing Bill and Ted, the first one.
Yeah. Whoa.
But still.
But, like, for me, like I said, Blob takes top bill after that. I know it's going to make 1,001 fanboys cry for saying this, but yes, The Beloved Alien is a remake. I also enjoy It, The Terror from Beyond Space, which is the original Alien, which Dan O'Bannon admits to heavily cribbing from to create the script for Alien. And a lot of people don't know that.
I don't think I've seen that. I got some 50 stuff.
It's free on YouTube. And it's a slog, but when you watch it underneath the concept that, hey, this is kind of like the basis for Alien, it starts to add up.
I know there's a lot of stuff that I was watching as a kid that I have no idea what the movie was or anything like that. Just that it was, I'd be watching it and folks would come in and it's like, grab the remote, nope, click. I was getting invested in that shit. What the hell? You know, I want to curse when I was like 5 or 6, you know, and that, I should say 6 to 10 range. Not really knowing what it is, but I was like getting invested in it.
Yeah.
I remember, you know, it seemed like an interesting storyline. I wanted to watch it. Granted, when you're 6 to 10, if it gets a little bit too creepy and you got a remote, you're going to change the channel.
One of the earliest films that Willow saw that had always had an impact on them was Them, you know, with the giant ants.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah, and it was interesting because I actually on the computer still to this day, I have where I can take a standard like DVD or Blu-ray and I can convert it to Anaglaph 3D, which is the red and blue. And for them at the time, it was really, really cool. And they'll bring up the fact that, hey, you know, can we watch Them this weekend? Because it's been a while. There's even a remake of that getting ready to come out, which I'm kind of curious how they're going to adapt nuclear-powered giant ants in the modern times.
One, I hope it's rated R because there's a couple of scenes that I would love to probably see in rated R.
Mm-hmm.
Because then, like, you see one of the ants bring out like a rib cage.
Yeah.
And just toss it down. And you want to see a little bit more meat to it, pun intended, as they drop it down. But you have wonderful movies like that was kind of brilliant. Yeah, it's cheese, literally American grade cheese. And I love that type of movies. Yeah, they're not scary now, but if you probably showed, the boomer generation, if you will, even a slasher movie now, like I'm talking like like Nightmare on Elm Street type of ordeal, they would shit their pants. They would literally shit their pants because they're not ready for that. They're not level for that type of gore or anything like that. Because Frankenstein, werewolf,
The Mummy,
the Mummy, all that was in Dracula. All that was kind of terrifying for them.
yeah.
And so,
and a lot of that stuff came from classic lit, like The Invisible Man. That was H.G. Wells,
And no, not.
I think it was H.G. Wells.
Frankenstein was. Yeah, I think it might have been. Folks, in the comment section down below, let us know. Correct
Bram
us on that.
Stoker's Dracula was kind of a very much a drag when you read it, because it's basically a journal. And I wish.
But first time it's revolutionary because it was read like a journal. You see it in creepypastas nowadays in that type of ordeal.
And they should. I would love to see a modern adaptation of Dracula that's handled in the journal format. That would be interesting, but you definitely would need to modern it up. But, when it comes to Jack, he was nothing but a ripoff of, what was his name? You had Carmella, which was like the best vampire / lesbian story ever. And the fact that they were making movies about Carmella in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s still cracks me up because nobody gets the lesbian subtext with that movie. And nowadays it just slaps you across the face.
Check out John Johnson's Alucard, Darkstone's Alucard.
Okay.
It's pretty much, it's based on the book Dracula, so it's going to have that element, but it's not like the overly productive production that was Dracula. So you're going to have a little bit more different context to it, and it's low budget. He does a decent job on it. I wish I had a copy to loan you. You might find it on either Tubi. I think he has an extended version on YouTube going way back.
Speaking of them,
I'm sure you could find it.
With giant killer ant movies, there's a movie right now sitting on Tubi, which is based on the classic PC and Sega CD game, It Came from the Desert. And it's kind of like a sequel to that game. And it deals with giant ants that raid this, like, what do you call those dirt bikes that people ride around the desert? Well,
I know what you're talking about, but motorbikes, I think, whatever.
Yeah, but they're out there racing.
Mountain bikes, motorbikes, whatever.
Yeah, and they decide to have a giant kegger because there's supposed to be an action movie star to come out.
Yeah, I've seen that movie. It was supposed to be a sequel
to the game.
Yeah. I thought it was supposed to be a sequel to them.
No, it was a sequel to the game It Came from the Desert, which was a PC game and also a Sega CD game. And it was very interesting because the game kind of took place in the 60s or the 70s. And the main character was kind of like your classic greaser biker dude.
But if you want to talk about strictly large animals or overgrown animals.
King Kong?
No, I'm not talking kaiju. King Kong is huge, but he's kaiju.
Is he really kaiju in the original ones? Because if we're talking scale, he's kind of dwarfed in comparison to the likes of Godzilla and the rest of the kaiju.
Well, if you want to look at it like this, if you want to go by the classics, the black and white stuff, Mighty Joe Young was way shorter, not even thigh high to King Kong.
Right. But you also have to remember that Mighty Joe Young was initially meant to be a sequel to King Kong.
I didn't know that, but I did bring up a favorable comparison in regards to the classics.
That remake was awful.
Oh, no. I'm not talking about the remake. I'm talking about the original. But I'm talking still 80s. Large large animals like they live. Not they live. Them. Large animals.
What was the one with the
Fruta-
giant mantis in it? Or was it just
I
called
don't
the
know.
giant mantis?
Might have been giant mantis. Yeah, it was 50s. Lacking creativity, guys. But still, visual creativity, yes.
You know,
Name calling.
the movie with the giant
Yeah,
tarantula.
But
No,
overall,
like Clint
it's
Eastwood
like,
was in that movie, and a lot of
yeah,
people
I
don't
think so.
realize that.
And Shatner was in another one similar to it too.
Kingdom of the
So,
Spiders.
who knows?
But they wasn't giant
But,
spiders. They were little
I'm talking
spiders.
about the movie called Food of the Gods and Food of the Gods
Oh
2.
yeah, Food of the Gods. That was Burt Gordon, wasn't it?
Yeah, I have it on my Vudu.
You got the second one?
No, they don't have it. Or else I would have picked it up. I would have loved that.
Because I vaguely remember the Exterminator in that kind of having a very Clint Eastwood type character arc, and I kind of want to watch it just for that.
And who can't forget the second one wasn't really alligator. I think it was
Alligator and Alligator 2. The mutation.
The sequel, the mutation wasn't really that big anyway, but still, it was an overly large alligator.
Yeah, but it was fun to watch that dude who was like an alligator expert made sex noises at that news reporter. I can rewind that clip and just crack up for hours because he's all like, like.
But well, it's part of my large animal collection. If I want to do a movie marathon, it's like, what are you gonna do? Large animals. It's gonna be Alligator 2, Them, They Live, Them. I don't know why I keep saying They Live.
Empire of the Ants.
Empire of the Ants. I don't think I have, but I should have
Taylor in that.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's one of them women with the long dark hair. It was kind of like a sex idol back in the day.
Late 70s, early 80s, or something like that.
Yeah, but again, mostly it's the black and white ones that I enjoy.
Really, they cover up so much. The black and white stuff.
Like even the ones that are colorized are fun. Look at Valley of the Guanji.
I might have seen that, but
this circus discovers like this hidden valley, kind of like out in the desert in Native American lands. That's full of dinosaurs, and so they try to incorporate the dinosaurs into their circus, and of course, chaos ensues.
Oh, that's like half the movies from the late 50s, early 60s as well. Oh, we're going to fly down this mysterious tunnel, and all of a sudden, it's the land that time forgot.
Well, they kind of made fun of Valley of the Guanji in that one episode with Principal Skinner saying he's going to, quit. And he's going to make the American novel, and he's going to call it the Valley of the Clonosaurus, and like a poo kind of reams him for Valley of the Guanji in Jurassic Park. It cracks me up.
But the classics, you can't knock the. There was original. Unlike today, there is very little originality. It's all the jump scare. It's got to be PG. Granted, yeah,
there are
in a way,
PG horror that does have some balls to it.
I'll agree with that, but nothing beats. I'll put it like this. I hope you can agree. 80s PG, nothing compares to 80s PG when it comes to today's PG.
Exactly, because Monster Squad is a PG movie, and that still rules. Because what does Wolfman have?
Nards. But what I'm talking about is like you have it got so you have to figure, ladies and gentlemen, or other that might be watching. You have to figure the PG went so hardcore in the 80s that they had to develop a PG-13 rating. Just to clarify. Again, I bring up.
I saw that Brandon Tenold actually has in his like merch collection T-shirts that's PG-13. What the fuck happened to this rating?
You have to figure, Sheena, Queen of the Jungle, she walks out of the river full frontal, and it's rated PG, ladies and gentlemen. Full frontal. We're not talking Return of the Living Dead while she was just wearing like a dancer's skin-colored thing from the waist down.
Moleskin.
No, she was what?
That's actually the name of it, moleskin.
Moleskin thing from the waist down to cover things up. No, we're talking frontal, full. I wish I was not distracted to actually time how long it was, but still, it was long enough to notice.
I like it spooky.
It's like, what's the difference between R and PG from the 80s? Maybe blood and gore.
You can only say fuck once before you are no longer PG-13. That's the difference. You get one cuss word, you better make it worthwhile. But no, like 50s and like early 40s and 50s horror is where it's at. I just think it's funny, like looking at Universal trying to recapture their past glory of having shared universes, because like the early monster movies crossed over a lot. And I'm not talking about Abbott Costello meet the Wolfman and Frankenstein, even though that was a Universal joint, but there still was crossovers in Universal.
Yeah, folks, we're talking Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, or Wolfman meets the
but they also did Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein and the Wolfman.
Yeah, but I think I also remember it was like
Frankenstein and the Mummy
and Wolfman, because I think that was the thing. Because
they had it separate. There was two different movies. Yeah,
because if I remember the movie correctly, the guy who played the Wolfman he felt that the only way he could truly die is Lon Chaney felt that he could truly die is that if Frankenstein's monster killed him, or something along those aspects. But he still had
monsters never die.
Good monsters never die.
Never die. They always come back. And that's what I always loved about it. But what I think is so funny is because, like, here's Universal. Like, many of the movies that you've mentioned or I've mentioned have roots with Universal horror, even though mine's more obscure. Granted, Blob is Paramount. I want to say The Terror from Beyond Space is RKO. And them, I don't know if that's Universal or not. I'll have to look it up. But the heavy hitters, Dracula, Frankenstein, Wolfman, the Mummy, though Creature from the Black Lagoon, we can't forget Creature. But those were the heavy hitters. They were all Universal. They were part of a shared universe. Invisible Man also. Don't mean to leave him out. And the sad part of it is now, like, Universal keeps trying to create a dark universe and keeps failing because
they just keep screwing it up. They screwed it up.
Well, first you had the Wolfman remake that they did, I want to say around like 2010 or something like that. And it was an okay movie. Benicio del Toro did a great job, but it was no Lon Chaney. Then you had Dracula Retold. Awful, awful, awful. And then of course recently you had that Mummy remake with Tom Cruise. Little short guy, it's a Scientologist. Tom Cruise in it. And the only thing that ever hit so far has been Invisible Man, and they're still kicking around, well, how do we get this to make further dark universe movies? And I'm kind of like, you need to go back to what you did in the 40s. Just fucking have fun with it. Stop with the continuity. Let the script writers figure out how both of these things are going to come at each other and worry about it from there. Do not turn this into League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. That was awful. If you want to have fun with it, make it The Mummy with Brendan Fraser.
I will say this. I'm sure you can agree. Monster Squad was very enjoyable.
Yes.
Very enjoyable.
It's going to be Squad remake. I do not want that.
A lot of folks I'll agree with you. I don't want to see a remake because it's going to mess up. They're going to probably mess it up somewhat. It's going to be hard to do it the way they did it back then. I like how they did it, how everybody, even the father, kind of turned himself around. He was supportive. You can if they kept it a little bit, I could almost see the main role of the leader of the group being, instead of it being the older child being a boy and the younger child being a gal, a girl, brother, sister relationship, it being the reverse in a way. They could almost do that and a little bit peppered, but it depends on who, what, when, where, and how. But with the monsters, I think the only weak link would have been Creature. Drop Creature.
Well, that's the problem, because they were going to do a Creature movie. There was going to be a Creature remake. And initially, believe it or not, they offered it to Guillermo del Toro, which would have been epic. And then they pulled it from him after, like, Dracula Untold failed. And what was funny, because Guillermo del Toro took what his concept was going to be for the creature and turned it into Shape of Water with another studio. And look at all the friggin' acclaim that movie got.
Right. But
They
what I'm talking
could
about
have
in
had
regards
that
for
at Universal.
it's like with the, in my headcanon, in regards to a Monster Squad remake, in regards to the monster ends of the stick, Drop Creature. He was pretty, for the most part, he was useless.
Yeah.
Keep the two heavy hitters, the Muscle, Frankenstein's monster,
Wolfman.
and Wolfman. Keep Dracula, but in regards to the Mummy, though it might seem a weak link, you power scale it a little bit. You power scale the Mummy. Use the similar concept to the Tom Cruise Mummy. You make the Mummy female a little bit. And make her a little bit of a magician. That way, the Mummy has a little bit of power scale to her as well. That way, for whatever is lacking without Creature, you now have the additional threat, and you could have a little bit of a love aspect between Dracula and the Mummy, two immortal beings right there, in a way. Keeping each other, because you could have a dynamic there and add a little bit of, it's not just getting to steal the talisman to rid all good, it's going to keep them even more immortal and even more powerful.
Yeah.
And so you have that, then you have the whole good dynamic to do what they do. But it's touchy-feely, and the way things tend to happen nowadays, it would be a bomb fest. It's very rare that you see something that they do. Monster Squad is obscure. It's a classic, and it's obscure. It's not on the level of Battle Angel obscure, but it's obscure. And they did, I'll say this, depending on who touches it, Battle Angel, like I said, Battle Angel was a very good film.
Yes. You could, like, for example, because Invisible Man did well. It did better than what it should have. And obviously they do have an Invisible Woman planned, which could be interesting. But if they want to build from that, they would have to kind of keep it grounded in realism. You could probably do a Frankenstein story of a monster crafted from undead flesh run amok. It could work if underneath a realistic scope. Dracula, you could take a completely different take on that. The Mummy is where things get kind of weird, because a while back, before they made Brendan Fraser's The Mummy, it was going to be Clive Barker's The Mummy, which I think was a missed opportunity. And Universal still owns the right to that script. I think they need to sit down with Mr. Barker and finally unleash Clive Barker's The Mummy. I think that could be fun. If you can find copies of the script online, but imagine Hellraiser meets The Mummy.
That could probably toss new life. And if they want to still try that whole aspect of the dark universe thing, it could actually probably breathe new life into it if they do go that route.
Yeah, because I think Clive Barker is the right person to kind of tap nowadays to kind of do a horror that modern audiences are going to latch on to. So yeah, that would work. You know, hell, I would say if Crichton was still around, get Crichton to do the Frankenstein remake, have him write and direct. But of course, he passed. I want to say around 2010 or something like that. Because with his science and his medical background, I think he could bring a good, a good
What about
thing
Robin
to.
Cook?
What's that?
What about Robin Cook?
Robin Cook
He
might, or the person that helped Guillermo del Toro write The Strain. I think that would be another person who could kind of bring some reality to the Frankenstein lore.
And like I said, like we said, can agree on. It depends on who's taking it and how they take it. It could breathe new life into a lot of good old stuff. Again, both of us could probably agree when The Mummy was, in essence, remade with Brendan Fraser, it was done very well. And
it was well for that time. I don't think a continuation would work now.
No, even though we had the Easter egg in The Mummy with Tom Cruise, with the Book of the Dead.
Yeah, but we also had an Easter egg for The Mummy in that horrible, horrible G.I. Joe movie.
Right.
Because Brendan Fraser's character was a descendant of, what's his name, from the Mummy movies. And it's one of those blink and you'll miss it type things.
It's do I want to see some stuff like that? But but it'll never happen because folks at Paramount, Universal, etc.
Nobody wants to play together.
No one wants to play together, number one. Number two, they want it to be PG because it's strictly, we got to make sure everybody's hat is able to see it. No, bring back the hard R stuff, man. Bring it back.
I mean, come on, like look at Hellraiser. Let's just put it that way.
Was the Hellraiser remake R?
The original was R. I think the remake was too, because it was on Hulu.
So if it's R, bring back blood, guts, gore.
I'm surprised that they even do rating with streaming. Because when Rob Zombie did 3 from Hell, he purposely did not put that in theaters except as one of those like events at certain theaters. What's it called where they do like certain events? It's not AMC, it's RC that does it.
I know Regal Events does something like that. It's like Regal Events.
But 3 from Hell, before it hit anywhere, Rob Zombie wanted it done as an exclusive so it could be unrated. And to me, it's like, I'm surprised streaming can't be unrated.
True. Plus, you have if no streaming place wants to take it, it's a horror movie. I'm sure Shudder would take it up. At least.
Yeah, because
they're horror centric.
Yeah, but Shudder also has a huge hard on for IFC Midnight, if you haven't noticed. But I think they have an exclusive first run thing with IFC Midnight.
And still, it's an option that's out there. It's like
I don't want a Universal.
Gone are the days. You and I come from a time from where in the 80s and 90s. You were born when?
78.
78. You're 3 years younger than I am. That's the thing. 80s, you had a lot of weird. Yeah, it was slasher dominated, but you had a lot of weird shit. Yeah. You had stuff like Food of the Gods. You had witchcraft. You had
the most epic hardcore Disney movie ever.
Black Hole?
No. And it's something that even Disney Plus doesn't have up yet, and it kind of pisses me off. It's based on a Ray Bradbury story.
Bob's a Carousel.
Yeah. Something Wicked This Way Comes.
Yeah. I remember that the whole scene in that where the guy in charge takes the
hands and
grandfather's hand, yeah, that freaked me out as a kid. Like, oh,
and that was Disney.
That really freaked me out. not freaked me out. It's just like, ugh, what's this movie? Oh, this something wicked this way comes. I'm not watching this. I'd rather watch
Good.
Poltergeist again. But it was a good movie.
Oh, so there's a debate for you when it comes to Poltergeist. Who really did it? Is it a Toby Hooper movie, or is it Spielberg, or is it both? Because there was a huge, and I will kind of say that there was a huge director's like issue back in the day when that movie came out, where a director could only have so many movies out a year. And so a lot of people believe that Spielberg heavily influenced Toby Hooper to make Poltergeist, and that's why it feels like a Spielberg film, because they couldn't have it as a Steven Spielberg movie. He could produce it, but he couldn't direct it.
I think there's that aspect of, I'll put it like this, if you catch the reference. There was a Beyond the Thunderdome aspect to it, meaning there were two directors, two separate writers, or two separate directors on Beyond the Thunderdome. If you pay close, this is what was brought to me, to my attention. Because you had those two people working against each other, you could tell which scenes were done by one particular person and one bunch of scenes that were done by the other type of person, the other
Right,
person.
but like when
So
you watch Hooper stuff, and like Hooper stuff is weird. Like look at the difference between
when
TCM and the second one.
When you watch Poltergeist, you could tell when Spielberg had his control. It's all family friendly, light, and all of a sudden when Toby had control of things, it went hardcore. It wasn't just we're easing into the spooky. No, it's we're slipping this into from 4 gears. We're slipping it into straight sets.
So you think it was both, and it was just
it might have been a little bit of both. That, and yet it was done so seamlessly. It's kind of hard to tell exactly. It's one of those optical illusions that, like if you went on Facebook and see that, is the subway going to you or away from you?
Well,
and
depending on how your shirt, we both know that Spielberg can do horror, and he did Duel. Duel is an awesome movie about a killer truck. We never really see the truck driver, and it's great. Have you watched Duel?
Yes, long time ago, but I've seen it. It's one of those weird psychological horror things that you don't see. Well, you kind of do, but not on that level.
So I was, speaking of Jaws, I was watching a documentary recently on the shark attacks that happened in Jersey. I want to say around like 1916, 1912, that heavily influenced Jaws. Where it's still believed to this day that the killer shark that was eating all these kids that were swimming around the river was a great white. And it's beyond, I don't want to say cool, but it's beyond terrifying, because here you are not living too far away from the ocean, but you think you're safe because you're in a river that's freshwater. And like at the time, a lot of people didn't know that sharks can swim upstream, at least within 2 or 3 miles of the ocean, because there's enough salinity in the water to keep them alive. And yeah, like tons and tons of kids were just destroyed by this shark that was just seeking out anybody in that river system. And Jaws took a lot of inspiration from that. Now that, if you want to remake Jaws, make that into a movie.
Something that a shark attacking freshwater.
Yeah.
In freshwater.
Yeah, but not the movie Shark Night that deals with like the hurricane that flushes a bunch of sharks into a freshwater area. That movie was horrible.
They'll probably do something along the lines. Oh, it's happening in Brazil on the Nile.
Nah, screw that.
No,
have it in a big pop. Hell, set it right back in New Jersey where the actual shit happened.
Right, or
give me some of them acid washed bridge and tunnel trolls. I'm all about
it. Something like that.
You can have Jersey goyles running into the water. We're gonna get skinny dipping.
Then I want to see the whole aspect of them, like somebody saying it's like, but, or from the like New York side of things, who died? Tommy so and so. Oh, looks like he's from Jersey. Nobody's going to care about him. Just walk out. It's
Just more
happening in
medical
Jersey.
waste.
It's just when it's from some New Yorker, we'll look into it.
You see, and that's the thing that I don't understand with Universal. Like, I get that their history has some rich horror, but where has the disconnect come from? I mean, I get it. I don't want to get into comic book movies, but I think comic book movies kind of ruined any other kind of dark universes out there.
Well, it's not just the comic book movies. Comic book movies is the comic book movie aspect is the elephant in the room. It's the biggest tumor, depending on.
Right.
I know some of you out there. It's not a tumor, but
it's a connected universe with several different series of movies.
When this whole thing, say it was part of the whole. If it wasn't for movies like Twilight, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, and like that made franchises big. And therefore, when you had movies starting like not just Hulk, but you had Iron Man, Thor starting to be big. Hey, let's connect this shit together and see what happens. And it's just.
Here's my take on it. Going back to 80s horror, because believe it or not, there was a shared universe that was kind of going on under everybody's nose and didn't realize it. And it hit more than one movie. For example, Evil Dead and the original Nightmare on Elm Street, they share elements with each other. If you watch basically Nightmare on Elm Street, one of the movies playing in the background in Nancy's bedroom is Evil Dead. However, if you watch Evil Dead 2 and you pay attention to the shed door and in the basement, or the root cellar, as it's appropriately called, you'll see Freddy's glove. You'll see a Hills Have Eyes movie poster. I think the Hills Have Eyes movie poster pops up in the first Evil Dead, if I'm not mistaken. And the second one shows Freddy's glove. Then you had the Book of the Dead, in, of course, Jason Goes to Hell.
Right. Though it was kind of confirmed in the comics in regards to that. So after feel it was like, well, the first you can't really.
But it was directors having fun with each other.
Yeah, and that's number one. It's like you can't really put everything together because the first Evil Dead was shown in Nightmare on Elm Street. But though you may be correct, they even. Bruce Campbell has said because the second one, the reason why it comes off so much, though similar than the first but different, is because it took place not in the same studio. It's a different studio, and because neither studio wanted to play nice to each other, so they had to redo the whole thing from scratch. That's why the intro for Army of Darkness looks a little bit different than what 2 showed. You had to get people caught up, but still you
couldn't show too much of the original copyrighted material.
But so therefore, this second Evil Dead could be in the same universe as Freddy and Jason.
But the thing of it is that it all started as in-jokes between directors, like hints, winks, and nods. And with the right writers and people out there, and let me emphasize this, just having fun. And I hate to say it, fuck a franchise. Have fun. We can play Mary Hobb with the canosity later on. And I think that is what will make it very, very interesting. Like, just let writers play and have fun.
Now, that's why I also would have loved to see in Jason versus Freddy versus Jason, instead of the whole ending of Freddy looking at the camera and winking, I would have preferred one of the other endings that they had planned out, which I'm sure you know, right?
Mm-hmm.
For the folks that might not know, the Freddy versus Jason was a New Line Cinema film. Who owns New Line? What other franchise do they own? from New Line, the Hellraiser franchise.
Yeah, because there was going to be
one of the
Hellraiser
ending,
eventually.
and what they wanted to do is one of the endings, instead of Jason carrying the head of Freddy and Freddy winking, it was them returning both in hell to continue the fight, and you see two chains wrap around each, preventing both getting close to each other, and it would have been probably Doug Bradley at that time come out of the shadows and say, boys, 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 play nice. Probably winning.
Initially, there was
I would have loved. The fans would have went ecstatic.
Ecstatic, yeah.
I would have loved to see that.
The Halloween franchise was initially going to cross over with Hellraiser at some point, and I'm just like, that just seems weird, but okay, sign me up. Mm-hmm. And even Child's Play was supposed to cross over with Halloween at some point, which even also kind of makes me go, what? You know?
Halloween and Hellraiser, I don't see it. Hellraiser, Halloween and Hellraiser, not so much, but Halloween and Child's Play seems a little bit more plausible in a way. Therefore, that's why I think, like in Freddy and Jason aspects, Hellraiser seems more plausible than.
But I think
having
it comes down to, and they need to stop making movies for money. Get a good script from a bunch of writers who are having a shit ton of fun figuring out this bullshit, and make the movie. I think if Universal
that's what made half the Friday the 13th movies. It was just plain, balls to the wall. Fuck this shit. It was made on the cheap. It was cheese. And the fans won. Fans won. And that's why half the horror movies in the 80s into the early 90s were cheese. You had Roger Corman was a thing. Those movies were cheese out the ass. And
I can tell you now, and I would almost guarantee if like someone from Universal went down or over to England and said, hey, Clive, you take a crack at Frankenstein, or take a crack at, who do we say he would work on? Clive Barker, The Mummy.
Right.
Have him take another pass at The Mummy, and then get somebody into medical science to do Frankenstein, and then Dracula. That's where it gets interesting. And just tell these people, here's the property, have fun with it, and then come back to us, and then we'll figure it out. And then just kind of wink and nod at them. We want to interconnect these eventually, so we can have crossover films, but have fun.
Or if you want, tell we said Clive Barker for Mummy, right?
Yeah.
When they have that done first, have the Mummy done first with Clive Barker, then have the Frankenstein, like if someone does it, similar to how the Mummy was done in the Brandon Fraser, and Clive Barker just horrifies it up to the level 12, which he can do, I'm sure of it. Then when they do Frankenstein, you get that person with the medical knowledge. You put in ties. Well, there's this guy, and that's how you make reference using mystical arts and bring a mummy back with a ritual.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we could harness that same time, but with science. Or getting that book and bring.
And I think that's the other thing that like Universal has a hard time with. They keep bringing the properties back into modern day. And honestly, if you keep it in the 30s and the 40s, I think it would work better. Because think about Frankenstein, for example. I mean, hell, look at Frankenstein's army. Because that's set during World War II with a descendant of Frankenstein making soldiers for the Führer,
Or in essence, even though it isn't, it is. Look at Victor with Daniel Radcliffe. It's in essence, I don't know.
It might have been, because they have tried various attempts to get a dark universe to happen. And it's so funny because there's like some of them they'll scribble off going, no, 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 that didn't count. Like for the longest time, they didn't want to talk about.
I'm kind of agreeing with you. You have it. It takes place in that same time as the original.
Yeah.
Aspect. Even I'm not talking about I Frankenstein, even though it's a decent movie, but still.
Right, but just
you get
have
to
it
still
take
have
place
something
in the same time frame, like the 30s and the 40s, or you know, or something where you might have
run
somebody
there where you could even pawn it off as a quasi. I want to say quasi sequel, but like in the book, Victor Frankenstein, in essence, dies.
Yeah.
The aspect of the creature is unknown. Have somebody find Victor's notes, the story. Go like maybe there is a way to recreate this and go from there. It's just you have to have that right creator, right writer to work on it. It's different and unique, and you have to have. I don't mean bring a level of camp, but you have to have that right person writing it. If you have that right team.
All of the monster movies, at the end of the day, at least from Universal, have one unifying chain. The Wolfman, the separation of beast and man. The Creature, which is kind of like the redheaded stepchild of the bunch. No offense to you, of course. But
none taken.
But The Creature is about the origins of man. Here is this kind of like peak between man and fish. No, we're not talking about, you know, certain rappers who you know would like to have sex with fish. We'll get into that some other time. But we're talking about that apex of when man kind of came to be, like the missing link between fish and man.
Right.
With Frankenstein, understanding life itself. With the Mummy, life after death. With Dracula, immortality and the price of it. But it all deals with what it means to be human. Because even The Creature, to a degree, they try to make him more human as the movies progress, and they find that they can't. And the stories do have kind of like a unifying theme to them. And I think if they wanted to make a dark series, that's how you would do it. You would find
you have
that
to figure as well
universal
with between Dracula and Frankenstein. It's two different ways of overcoming death.
Yes.
In a way.
You have immortality, and then you have bringing the dead back. And the Mummy is kind of the same way, with bringing the dead back.
Just different elements. One is with science. One is with probably with mummy mystic arts. I'm not sure how vampirism.
The Wolfman is just the whole man beast thing, and Creature is the same thing too. You know, what was our origins, essentially? And I think if they kind of kept to that unifying theme and told stories like that and then linked those stories somehow, like right now, off the top of my head, I could see how Wolfman and Creature would be an interesting pairing, because you have this conflict between man and beast with Wolfman, and with Creature, you have this animal that appears to be man and is trying to adapt to man's society, and it's kind of a very similar tale to Wolfman.
Well, I think it's not just that I think we're overlooking a problem here. And one of the problems is and was, especially with the Mummy movie that came out a couple years ago, is that you have to have a director and a producer that has a spine of steel or balls of steel to put their foot down. Mm-hmm. That means if the studio's like, no, we want this, no, fuck you, I'm doing it my way. Sit down, shut up. And if one of the problems with the Mummy was Tom Cruise. He has to have pretty much, I want to be a 95% of it. I want complete control. You do that shit, you're gone. You're going to listen to me. But fuck you, sit down. You're not the general here. I am.
But think about with the actors that were in the original Universal movies, they weren't names until after those movies.
Right. So try to find unknowns and new up and comers.
Exactly.
They don't have that ego yet.
Get somebody from like small screen or stage. Hell, that's where half the original actors came from. They were stage actors. There is still a healthy stage life out there. Grab them people while they're fresh. Let people cut new teeth, and then use all of your money in special effects and all that great stuff.
Yeah,
but still, I mean,
the money.
The classics could be done again, and there could be a shared universe. It's like Universal. Stop thinking about making money, because they sound like the underpants gnomes from South Park. Steal underpants. Massive profit.
And instead of let's remake everything. No. Well, you would have to remake it, but don't do stuff that's from like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or something like that. Just go back. If you have to do something, do what a lot of folks have forgotten. Yeah, they live them again. What they them. Not many people would remember them.
They're remaking them.
They're remaking it. Though I might whine, bitch, and complain. Why not? It's from the 50s. It's that far gone, but still, I'll be like, it's a cult classic. I'm going to still watch the original, but still, I understand it.
Just don't make it like a Freaks. That's all I ask.
No,
please don't.
One of the other movies I like to watch, I'll probably watch it after this, is When Worlds Collide. Love that movie. It's old school. Is the science bad? Probably. But I do know part of me wants to search again for this. There's a sequel. Hear me out. It wasn't made to TV. It wasn't made for film. It was only in book form. You could find it on eBay, but the book is $50 for a paperback that was like 50 years old. I'm not paying $50 just to read the continuation. And there's no ebook version. Somebody out there, if you have this book, find it, make an ebook. I'll fucking read it. I will, because I want to find out what happens. And it does take up right after the folks land on the new Earth, the new planet. So, in regards to that,
I remember like the old grocery store days where you would go into a grocery store and you could find like a dime horror novel on the cheap. And like some of that stuff had some interesting plots, and I'm surprised like a bunch of it didn't get turned into movies. Like one of the ones I picked up, I want to say early 90s, there was a book called Carnivore, not Carnosaur, but Carnivore. And it takes equal parts of The Thing and Jurassic Park and makes a book about it. So it deals with these Antarctic explorers who find a dinosaur egg, and their research station has been overtaken by this evil corporate entity who has been using it to dump toxic waste out in Antarctica. And so they store the egg that they find in the ice beside the toxic waste, and it allows the dinosaur in the egg to grow, and it's just this ravenous T-Rex. And because of the waste, it has mutated where it can survive the temperatures, and it just goes on a rampage destroying these guys. And I'm like, I love it.
How have I ever told you? That being said, I don't think I ever told you about the book I read. It's called, again, it wasn't a dime store aspect. It was a Dollar General book, soft cover book. Meaning you could go to Dollar General and pick it up for $1. It was on the shelf. I was like, oh, $1. I'm picking this shit up. It was called Zombie, Xombie. Basically, the premise is that the zombie apocalypse has already started and focuses in on this teenage girl, and she's one of the. You find out in the book, she's one of the survivors. But in the book, as you're reading, you find out the whole zombie outbreak started with women. And it's majority of the women that get infected first. It's not just by bite or anything else. So you find out, well, what makes this particular teenage girl special? Oh, because she's been malnourished her whole life. Her natural aspects that would trigger at 13, let's say 13, to make a assigned female at birth go into menstruation and the whole ordeal didn't happen with her because she was malnourished. And as soon as she started, getting the proper nutrition, that's when everything kicked in. And how she started to turn. And you find out the reason why the women got infected first in regards to it, and why women were the start of it, is because a couple of rich. It was the original patient 0 was a not assigned female at birth person, is because the rich elite wanted to be immortal, and the only way to keep the zombie infection in check is have a pure person, and she wound up to be, in essence, the queen of the, kept in like a tank and control. It was a weird but interesting story.
Well, see, the fact that they took the name zombie kind of upsets me with an X, because like that is a story by a guy I know by the name of James Farr, and it's about a zombie with a conscience, and there's a whole zombie apocalypse, and this little girl gets stuck in the middle of it, and he's got to get her back to the human settlement before the ravenous zombies decide to fuck her up. And he's just having difficulty dealing with the fact that I feel, but I can no longer feel because I'm the living impaired. And he has like these very meaningful conversations with this little girl, and because she's complaining about her head hurting, and he's like, well, that's good. He was like, that means you're still alive. And she's like, oh, do zombies not feel pain? And they're like, well, our bodies don't. And you're just like, oh, like, wow. And it's so deep. And you find out as the story progresses, there's kind of like a very H.P. Lovecraft, like other dimension that invaded us that caused the whole zombie outbreak. Right. And that dirge, as what he calls himself, which basically means a mournful lyric, may have been one of their experiments, or may have been a doctor who was experimenting with what was causing this. And it's so cool because he runs across a mummy zombie who still has all her faculties, because she wasn't of the elite class. She was people that was buried alive with all their stuff taken out, so she was able to reanimate. Plus a dinosaur zombie that had thawed out from basically like a chunk of ice.
A glacier or something like that.
Yeah, and they all kind of team up to get this little girl where she needs to be. And it's kind of cool, and they run across all kinds of stuff. But if you look it up online, it's like xombie.com. James Farr runs that, and it's, he's even had people option him for movies, but he's kind of backed out because he's like, they all want to adapt the story differently, and he's like, I'd rather see a straightforward adaptation of the story versus a bastardized version.
I know we probably don't have that much time left, but please forgive. I know you wanted to do it, probably go into something a little bit more different, but if you don't mind me, because I get a lot of flack on my end from, me, my stance and all that. But you get a lot of new watchers and listeners. I got new watchers and listeners, and because places like Twitter and Facebook can be a dumpster fire within itself, and I get it all the damn time.
Do we have a loser of the week?
Besides the motherfucker that had 7 followers on Twitter, and the whole aspect of somebody I kind of familiar with posted up a meme that was over 10 years old. It's the whole aspect of, you have stereotypical nerding. I don't mean the nerds version of a nerd, talking about the neck beard, acne filled type of mean lord type deal. And you have the hot guy sitting next to it, and you have the list of, he's kind of shy. What a fucking weirdo. Oh, he's shy. Oh, he just doesn't. he doesn't want to talk. He must be a weird sicko creep. Oh, he doesn't want to talk. Oh, he's just shy. And that whole type of comparison
He eats his chicken wings with gloves.
Like eats chicken wings with. Oh, he picked up. I dropped my pen. He picked it up. Ew. I dropped my pen. He picked it up. Guess my pen's going to be inside me later, sort of thing. And it goes all the way down with like the geek stuff and so forth and so on. And while the ugly guys the response is, ew, how dare he? Yet the hot guy is, oh, yeah, how cute and wonderful. Yeah. And the atypical was like, oh, it doesn't bathe. And you had this person with 7 followers like, yeah, it probably doesn't bathe and doesn't do laundry. And I'm like, you're missing the point of the meme. Yeah. It's a whole aspect of the initial aspect is how, if you want to go with the standards, a person who is on the left could wash, clean, have daily hygiene, wash their clothes. Just like the guy on the right, women go by looks. Yet the women want no matter what they look like, you have to like them. I know it's that argument. You'll hear like, oh, you'll hear some extreme women that are extremely overweight. They have to still love me even though I look like Freddy Krueger and 400 pounds. Yet they want somebody that looks like Henry Cavill. It's like, that's wrong. You're saying you want body positivity. You look at someone that you deem ugly as ew. That's being a hypocrite.
Yeah.
That's a double standard. And that's what I was telling him, that guy. And he was like, no, they don't. That guy has acne. He probably doesn't use face wash and all this. I'm like, what do you think daily hygiene means?
I look like hell because I did my daily hygiene today. Trust me, we don't look pretty all the time.
That's the idiot of the week. But I'm talking about, I get flack because of the name of my show. I know you want to do origins and all that.
No. Who's giving you flack? Well, we can do origins next time.
No, just not on that. I said every now and again I'll get flack for the name of the show. In regards to, oh, are you associated with those folks in California, at Columbine? And I tell them, it's like, one, I'm not in line with those fucking cowards.
Yeah.
I know what they did. They are everybody in that situation is a fucking coward. Depending on if you want to listen to mainstream media, everybody in that situation, they were all. I have my own agreement in regards to incels. It's a fucked up term. It'd be like me saying all trans are traps.
Yeah. I'm talking about the root of incels, like those guys who literally say they're going to go out and kill because they can't get a date. That's the general definition of an incel.
There's the whole aspect. I could be classified as an incel, involuntarily celibate, because I don't want to date because the whole extremist feminist
but you've never
movement.
Said you want to go out and kill anybody. So.
Right.
That's the difference.
The whole aspect is, oh, you're the name of the Lone Coat Mafia. I'm like, tell me where in all my episodes have I condoned what they've done.
You did. Exactly.
I never did. A lot of folks that I've interviewed, especially you can vouch for this. My 3 rules is no hate speech, no derogatory terms, unless it's under heavy context. Yes. Meaning that, again, here on record, if we talked about the aspects of the trans community, and if I'm playing devil's advocate, and what about the terminology traps? Is it an offensive term? Yes. But it's for me to have you talk about that term and why it is offensive. I'm not using it as an offensive term. Right. I'm using it as a springboard, as a talking point to start a discussion. I don't condone what they did. I don't put on that violence. And as my rule, hate speech, derogatory terms, like the N-word or anything like that, is not allowed unless it's under heavy context. Second time, drama's not allowed on my show. If there is drama, you talk it up with me first on air, and that way there's a way to show or hear folks saying that, hey, look, they talked it out. They tried to talk it out.
Right.
Or let me know something happened. And the third rule is have fun,
Yeah.
which you and I do.
Yeah.
And they don't want to hear that. They're just like, oh, but you. I'm like, motherfucker, you what? Listen,
You're
here's a
talking
photo
about a person
of
though
Cassie.
that only has 7 followers.
No, I'm not talking about this person. I've had folks, wander up, on Instagram and message me on Instagram with a couple hundred or a couple thousand followers, pose that question. And it's like, well, you have somebody like Loki. Are you going to go against them because they're wearing a long coat? That's not the point. Yes, it is. You bring up somebody wearing a long coat as a dangerous person. What about Castiel from Supernatural? Is he a threat? Is Misha Collins a threat because he wore a long coat on Supernatural for 12 years?
Look at all the guys in the westerns that were the hero that
the
wore
westerns.
dusters.
And the westerns, or something, they make a modern western or something like that, or something that takes place in the West, and they wear a duster.
Is technically a
long
coat.
coat. Well, that's not. Yes, it is. You're going by a group of fucktards that decided, hey, we don't want to be bullied anymore, and everybody from classmates on up, if you want to believe, depending on who you talk to, ignored the fact of what they were going through and didn't tell nobody.
Right.
It's your case point is valid. It's not that. The reason why I chose that name is because depending on your fandom, whether it be westerns, sci-fi, long coats have been in everything, from sci-fi
Kevin
to horror
Smith
to
wears
everything.
a long coat every Jay and Silent Bob movie,
and that's the aspect. It's part of pop culture. Number one. Number two, the whole aspect of the mafia has been a part of our pop culture as well. Whether it be not so much Breaking Bad, but Goodfellas, Godfather, the HBO thing. I forgot the name of it. That's one I'm trying to remember. Sopranos. That's been a part of everything, and there's still today, even though pop culture is considered stylish, it's chic. You have folks going to Walmart. They're buying shirts like this. They think Jaws is a brand. They don't know it's a movie from the 80s. Folks, you have that stereotype. Oh, I was wearing my Nirvana shirt. Somebody came up to me and asked me to name 3 albums. Yeah, that's because a lot of times, a lot of folks that are buying that shirt, yeah, you might be a fan, but how many folks have said, it's a band shirt? Oh, I thought it was the name of the brand. That's the point. And you have folks still that are fans of horror, like you and I, fans of sci-fi, fans of Marvel movies, that they are shunned because they are fans. Oh, you play D&D. Oh, sicko, weirdo, freak. And that's why part of my mono, if you listen, folks at home, if you listen to my show, you hear rest his soul, the guy that did the voice for our intros and our outros and all that. He says, welcome to the Long Coat Mafia, where we don't treat you, we treat all geeks as family, because we want you to be part of our family. We'll get your back. We'll
family.
It's about It's about hopefully I could find
we'll get a little clip with Vin Diesel saying
Vin Diesel saying family. I'll find it. Just put it all. It's about family. It's that aspect. We have that. It's bringing family into us, and why not having a bunch of our family? It's that. It's it's about pop culture. We're the outcasts. We're the the fun part. We're gonna watch the cheesy stuff. We're the ones that are gonna go, here, read this.
Ooh, Life Force.
You're gonna watch this. It's what was that?
Ooh, Life Force.
Ooh, Life Force. I'm going to watch. Don't make me watch that now.
That's Toby Hooper, isn't it?
I don't know.
I think it is.
I just know it's Canon Films, man. Canon Films.
I think it's Toby
Gotta
Hooper.
love Canon Films.
We go full circle. Well, I tell you what, I've got a pitch for you regarding these people. Got a pitch, future show idea,
and not to mention it.
Next time that was just another one of them. You get a screen grab of them, and then the stupid shit that they say, and we will post it to our respective pages and just put it out there and have them be. And I don't know what to call them, but it'd be kind of like back in the day when I would do the dating fails.
Oh yeah,
do that.
But
for
here's
them.
Here's another thing. Back in the day when I first started this, about 3 to 4 months prior, a podcast I used to listen to. It was called. I said this in my podcast 101 panels that I've done, and I'll probably post that up next week as one of the anniversary episodes. I used to listen to them for years, and the podcast was called Slacker and the Man, and the person that one of the main hosts was a former cop. And I pitched him, I was like, listen, if I start up my show and you come back, how about we have a little bit of a rivalry? A cop versus, the man versus the mob in a way, and have like a little bit of friendly, scripted, wrestling rivalry type of ordeal where it's completely fake, but we're having fun with it. Watch, or do something on Twitch. Like if he was still doing it today, I'd be on Twitch doing, playing like Call of Duty World War II one-on-one battle with him, trying to go back and forth. That way fans could join in and watch. It'd be that marketing aspect of watch, former agent, former cop go after a mobster, but all in fun. It was that mindset of if he comes back or if he continues, we have that thing. And every now and again I'll see his posts like, do you want to kind of record again? I miss it. I'm like, how much is it going to take you to come back on my show? Come on. How much?
Right.
So
seriously, screen grab them people from here on out. Just screen grab them. We will put them on the show. We will say, here's what this dumbass said. Let's explain why it's stupid. Let's laugh at them together.
Right. So,
because trust me,
I'm sorry.
I could grab some stuff from my DMs that you and I could spend hours laughing at.
Hey, we could do one of these days. We could do a viewer email or viewer DM special or something like that.
Yeah. And so whenever you get some stupid shit like that, just save it, set on it, let us know, and then we'll put it out there.
We could probably do something I know, at least on my end, folks on Sasha's end, and maybe later on my end. At least I've been promoting it on my end. July 12th is when we'll probably, because of your new schedule, we'll be recording not next, but we'll be one of our scheduled recording. That's my show's anniversary date, our birth date for the show, officially when we officially launched.
And it's the last day for deadlines for Miss Blob Fest. So far, I've only got one competitor out there, just one. And of course, it's somebody sitting in front of a camera.
What Sasha could have planned, she could probably roast me or all that. We'll figure something out. We got over a month to that happen. So,
and I may be off that day because of. Oh, you said July 12th or June 12th?
July 12th. July.
Okay. Because that's only a couple days before Blob. It should work. We'll figure it out.
Well, we'll figure it out. We'll think of something, depending if your schedule is free or something like that.
No, my schedule should be free. I'm just saying it's because I'm going to have a lot of content that you can use from Blobfest as well.
And I'll still post up, like, whatever you hand over to me, I could always post up somewhere. It's extra stuff on my end. And it's like, I know you gave me permission. It's like, that extra stuff helps my channel. I know you have your own channel. It just helps my stuff gain traction and all that fun shit too. Yeah. So
content, putting stuff out there. But yeah, next time you get more dumbasses, I want them. Give them to me.
Give them to me.
Give them to me.
Give them to me.
But yes, you have been listening, of course, to the podcast of Darkness. I, again, am Sasha Constantine Monroe, aka Sasha the Princess of Darkness, horror hostess, demonologist, just big fat nerd. And then, of course, me
And
here, I've got the
hopefully the
Martinsburg
blog,
Madman, Christopher Lumser.
and hopefully you'd be what, the Blobfest princess or whatever it's called.
Mixed Blob Fest. We'll see how that goes. I mean, I've only got one competitor so far. If it stays that way, that'll be great. But I don't know. It feels like everybody's waiting to the last minute to drop their entry so they can see what everybody else did beforehand. But me, I went out and did a full-fledged commercial. I even got my buddy, one of my friends to do a voiceover for the commercial, and I'm quite sure you've already seen it, and it's a hilarious reading, and I'm enjoying it for what it is. And like anybody else I've seen in the past as competitors, it's just them in front of a static camera talking. This new girl that posted, I want to say yesterday, at least she has some comedy to it, and some interesting cuts, and some unique stylistic camera choices, but it's still somebody sitting in front of a camera. It's like, tell me a story. Give me something. Let me chew on it. You know what I mean? Challenge me.
But folks at home, just to let you know, I'm sure Sasha might post up the general Linktree link or whatever to. Do you have the Linktree link
For
my show?
Yeah. I'll get all that handled on the back end. It's all over OnlyFans. So
if you guys want to check out, I've been for the past couple of weeks, I've been posting up anniversary episodes, at least 2 a week. I dropped one today because the Sasha schedule has changed. So if you want to get caught up on some of our past episodes in regards to how cringeworthy they were, I dropped what I called a beta episode last week.
Beta.
In regards, well, when it was for, at the time, Apple Podcast / iTunes, you had to have something before you could apply. And it was just me trying to work out the kinks and, put up a skeleton. No, I didn't spend a half hour going, fuck, mother, fuck. Now, it was just me doing like quick deep dives, reading creepy pastas and, like quick interviews with, a friend or something like that just to get started. And I just like, this is how cringeworthy I was when I first was building the skeleton of the show. And I posted up, I think the second episode was our second anniversary episode, was our first hostful. And it was the origin of, I'm a gamer and I'm wearing a bikini. So you hear that whole aspect. So, and you hear like how cringeworthy and how at that time I wanted to be. You have to figure back in 2015, you had this, even though it's there today, it was much more of a bigger wave back then. It's that whole as I said in the anniversary episode, a wave of severe anti-woke stuff. I mean, Anna Sarkeesian would come out bashing a game. You'd have like 15 videos coming out trying to debunk what she said and why she's wrong. That's what I was trying to mimic at that time in a way. Why is this a thing? I still kind of do it today with you and all that. You do it with me, where this is wrong, how it's right, what both sides are. And that's why I'm happy to have your pushback on this, because while we have that agreement, sometimes we both have two kind of opposing views, and but
we still learn from each other, and that's what the important thing is.
Yeah. And I won't come in, arguments blazing unless I have like, I saw what you said. I have notes, God damn it.
Tons of notes.
But
anyways, make sure you're checking out his backlog, and
all the links are in the link tree. All the links in the link tree. At least the GoFundMe there. If you can't, I know financial times are tough right now for a lot of folks financially. If liking, sharing, listening, watching, and subscribing helps a lot. So if you can't help financially, helping by at least watching, sharing, and subscribing helps more than you know.
Exactly. So, yeah, it helps beat the algorithm.
Algorithm
the mighty
gods.
algorithm.
Algorithm. Saying your body as you
We will bring you a sacrifice. But check out his stuff. Continue watching stuff on here. Beware guys in blue gloves eating chicken wings because they're just strange.
And I'm still a gamer, and I'm wearing a bikini. Prove me wrong.
Well, that's it. That's the show.